Marriage is every relationship's final goal, building a family with your loved one, sharing your struggles and success until death pulls you apart. But just like any other relationship, it crumbles when there's miscommunication, wavering trust, and unhappiness. Is there still a way to recover a dying marriage life? Tune in to learn what you can do to reinvigorate your love and make your relationship stronger than ever.
Well, hello, everyone. Maria Romano from True Love Knots, bringing you everything and anything you want to know about love in your relationships, personal or professional life. I am so excited today. Oh my gosh. I had a friend reach out to me and he said, you know what? I think this guy would be perfect for you to interview. And I said, well, who is he? He said, well, his name is Evan Money. I said, what do you mean Evan Money, right? But I was blown away about Evan and his family, his mission, and what he and his beautiful wife, Susan, what they do to keep their relationship just rebooted, regenerated, everything. They're so unique. And I wanted to be able to share this today with my listeners. By the time this podcast is released, we'll be close to the new year. So, my friends, he's going to give us some great information, right? We're going to definitely going to celebrate with a glass of bubbly. I just have water right now. But what are you doing with your relationships in your personal life and your professional lives? So first of all, welcome, Evan. So nice to meet you.
Maria, such a treat to be here. And usually everybody's just like, oh, Ab, I love your energy. Thanks for bringing me up. So now I get to turn the table and say, Maria, thank you for your energy. So finally, I've got someone kind of at our level and excited about life. I love it.
Oh, you know what? I have to tell you, interesting you say that about life because, your journey, you've been with your wife, which we're going to get into that in just a moment. My journey is I'm a widow. And there's downtimes in relationships, and there's going to be people listening, widows, widowers, it doesn't matter if people are divorced, where you kind of feel like, oh, I really want somebody in my life. But you know what? You got to just be grateful you can get up and hit the ground running today. So that's the key thing. But enough about me. Okay. So this podcast is about Evan and his your philosophies on life. So just give us a little thumbnail sketch, maybe where you're from, and kind of bring us to current day if you can.
Wow. Well, I was born at a young age. Okay. what I've discovered, Maria, and I've been blessed to be on different podcasts. And although I can say Maria is like at the top of the energy level, which I love, but it's really about the person watching this and saying, okay, what's in it for me? And so what's in it for you is realizing that this life of pain and problems that continues to cycle can end today. It really can. And so I come from a normal dysfunctional family. So for my bride and I, both normal dysfunctional families. And I grew up living here in Southern California. And I think the vibe is similar in Vegas, where you are, Maria, where I saw three options when it came to relationships. You could be married and miserable. I saw lots of that. My parents modeled that. Television shows modeled that. I mean, everything was about married and miserable. And then when you got around other men that were married, that's all they talked about is how miserable they were. So there's married and miserable, or you could be divorced and desperate, Maria. And I saw lots of that. There were lots of TV shows on that and lots of stuff around that, right? And you go to the bar and you realize like, whoa, okay. All right. And then the third option, so married and miserable, divorced and desperate, or you could be single and cynical. And at a young age, I was like, you know what? I cannot live this way. Give me, I know Matrix, the new Matrix movie's coming out or will be out by the time this airs. So I was like, give me the red pill. I'm out. Like, how can I get away from these options? Because those don't work for me. And I didn't know there was anything else. I just, the bumper sticker when I was in my, growing up my 20s and 30s was life sucks and then you die. That was kind of the thing. And I was like, I'm not buying into that. I'm not doing that. So we went on this discovery journey of just saying, okay, first I'm just going to opt out of the world whatsoever. So while all my buddies were in college, I went to Surf Bum University and people nicely say, Evan, where's that? And I go, oh, no, that's just me surfing and eating Taco Bell for 4 years. I didn't go to school. I just surfed. And then started realizing like, hey, it would be nice to have a place to live, and it would be nice to kind of get a job. So I kind of came into the corporate world and realized like, oh, that's so toxic. I got to get out of here. And finally had an inkling that what I thought was a burden, what I thought what was wrong with me was actually a gift. And that's being an ADD visionary. And it was like, oh, okay, I'm an entrepreneur. That's what we need to be. So realized that, hey, starting businesses, starting things could kind of create my own economy. And then my bride and I got married. Here's one not to do, Maria. My bride and I got married the same month I started my first business. Don't do that. But we discovered, right, coming together, we said, hey, you know what? We don't want to model what our parents showed. We don't want to model these three options, right? So what can we do? And so we searched, Maria. We went out like with a spear searching for happily ever after. And people used to make fun of us, say we watch too many Disney movies, but we're like, we know what's out there. We're going to find it. Let's get the goggles. Let's go on the search. And what we found, Maria, was happily ever after wasn't a place to be discovered. Rather, it was a place that she and I created together with our actions and our attitudes. And once we figured out that was like a daily thing, it was like, oh, okay, I get it now. Once we found that has kept us away from those three negative options of relationships.
Wow. You said an awful lot and I love it. And you said something that really struck a nerve, and maybe for my listeners out there as well. You talk about the happily ever after. Well, how many people out there? I'm a Hallmark Channel junkie. Okay. So I'm guilty of that. And I believe in happily ever after. So I think that's just great. You made it a choice. And that's what it sounds like. You and Susan made a choice that your relationship was going to be first in your life and that you were going to live happily. And well, so what do you do? I mean, are you always this happy? Come on. What do you do on days when you're just not so much liking each other? How do you go through that?
Well, I'll give you the secret for that. But Zig Ziglar taught me this a long time ago, and I was blessed to do a movie with him. I tell people I'm either up or I'm getting up. So
I love Zig.
It's one of the two. Yeah. I've learned a lot from Zig in that area. But for those that don't know, my bride and I, we get remarried in a different state or country every year. So the gals kind of go, oh, that's nice. But guys, stay with me here. I've had 28 honeymoons. Yes. And no Viagra needed. It is awesome. So how we buffer your question, Maria, like how do you buffer that when it's not really like, okay, it's great on the honeymoon, but what about this? So
what about the other days? Right.
So what we do by having a wedding every year, sometimes two, we put ourselves in a certain state. Now there may be a few Tony Robbins disciples and know it's all about state of mind and your states and your mindset. And so we're in one of two states, Maria. We're either in a post-honeymoon bliss state, which we are right now. Mm-hmm. We just came back in the country from honeymoon number 28. Woohoo!
And where was that? In Mexico? Or was that
in Dubai?
Dubai.
Yeah. At the top of the Burj Khalifa, the tallest building in the world. Yes.
Oh my gosh.
So we're either in a post-honeymoon bliss, which we are now, or we're in an excitement like, ooh, where are we going this time? Because for most gals, trust me, I understand where you're at. When you hear wedding, you hear stress, you hear, where's Aunt Martha going to sit? It's got to be perfect, right? But after 28, right, after the first one's done, they're all just fun. They're all exciting. There's zero stress. So it's like planning the next dream vacation, and people get, well, where you go, Dubai, what about this? And what about this? But here's the thing, it's not about the destination and it's not about the details. But really, it's about the dedication and the devotion that we have to each other. Because every year, sometimes twice a year, I get to sanctify my bride and say, yes, I'm choosing you out of 8 billion people once again. And when we're in those states, Maria, this negative decline of like, well, what happens when my bride has a bad day? My bride doesn't have a bad day because of this state that we put ourselves in. So when we're constantly like, oh, it's the post-honeymoon bliss, I'll let that slide. That doesn't bother me. Or, oh, where are we going now? Oh, we're going to do this. We're going to do this. So those things never make it in to bother us because we're in these protected states.
And that's true. I have read that. And I know myself with my late husband and I that whenever you're planning a vacation, and we call it vacation, but you're calling it a vow renewal, you're getting
Yes.
married. And there's nothing wrong. You can just do this impromptu
Yes.
as well. You can go someplace, you can just get somebody to find someone, hey, to do a vow renewal, which is great. And it adds a level of excitement. And they do say who they are, whoever they are, right? The experts that, for relationships, that when you do go on vacation, it happens to reboot it or re-energize it. And, when I talk about that's what we read, but let's face it, the best advice that you can get from somebody is somebody that lives it. And you and Susan live it. Do I have a question for you? What about the kids? Do they join you on the vacation honeymoon? Tell me.
Okay. So when they were little, no. So now, like 2 years ago, we did Australia, and we're like, because they're now 18 and 15. So we're like, well, we can't go to Australia and not bring the kids. Okay, you can come. And so for Australia, we got married at the top of the Sydney Bridge. So we climbed the bridge together, had the ceremony at the top of the bridge. And so, yes, now that they are much older, more mature, we bring them, and for better or for worse, right? They're, the dinner around the conversation around the dinner table is, where are you getting married next year? Where are we going? Now it's, do we get to come? And it's like, I don't know. So they get to be a part of it. They get to kind of see it from the outside, kind of see it from the inside. And so, yeah, so we bring them, but where we stay, like, for example, in Dubai, we stayed in this spectacular Airbnb, like 50 floors up and 3 bedrooms. So we have our master suite way on the other side, and they're over there. We don't do like the hotel rooms, with the one little, no. So we structure it so we can have a real honeymoon and still have the kids. But again, they're in a state where it's like, okay, you guys go off for half a day. We'll come meet you later.
I'm amazed. So it's interesting because you have a website, right?
Yes.
Evan Loves Susan. I love that. And then you have your website. So it seems like you're happily married, everybody out there listening, which I think is so important, because that we always run across people that are cynical and say, but I think what you're doing. But I do have a question from a wedding officiant standpoint.
Yes.
Do you have,
which I love, by the way.
Oh,
like
yes.
3,000. That was
No,
like, oh my God.
Close to 4 now. This year was crazy, Evan. But anyway, yes. And anyway, so getting back to on your vow renewal, do you usually have an officiant there, and do you write your own vows? So I just kind of want to hear this to share with my listeners.
Oh, yes. So it's such a paradigm shift for women, right? Because once you get past this first one, then it's like, oh, there are 0 rules. And so the creatives, the artsy, the creative people really latch onto this. And it took us a while to find our rhythm, because again, we were in the old paradigm of like, is this allowed? Is this legal? Do we need paperwork? Oh my gosh. Da, 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 da. And now we're just like, oh man. So what I've discovered is, so I will directly answer your question. What I've discovered is my favorite thing, Maria, after 28. And so yes, it's evanlovesusan.com, and you can see pictures of all 28 of our weddings, and it'll show you our age demographic, because you can see how old and grainy the pictures were, right? I feel like it's the 1900s, right? Where these old ancient, right? And now to the new stuff. But what I found, my bride and I found, is our favorite, Maria, is when we have friends officiate the wedding, because then we're more connected, because it's like, hey, you married me. Hey, we're connected that way. And if there ever is a hint, it's like, oh man, I can't let those people down, right? They married us, right? And then what I also discovered, we had a good friend. He really reached out to me as a guy, which is rare. But he was like, yeah, because I asked him, I said, will you write our vows? He said, sure. And he goes, as I was writing your vows, I felt more convicted about my marriage, and I needed to pick it up on this end and this end. So it was a blessing for us. It was a blessing for him. So that has worked amazingly well. One of my favorite vow writings was a friend of mine, Coach Zach Woodfin, who used to coach for the Green Bay Packers. We got married at Lambeau Field. So I'm a big NFL football guy. Yes. Oh, wow. So, and he was a coach of the team, not the head coach, but a coach. And so he did the vows for us, but he wore his whistle. He wore his, his coach shirt. And he put in these vows of love and respect and excellence and honor. And they were all like Vince Lombardi quotes. It was so awesome. And so my bride's crying, of course, and I'm crying because it's football. Oh my God, it's so wonderful. But through the years, some of my favorites have been me writing the vows and tailoring them for what we're doing. So from the creative side, we got married in Washington, D.C. once. So we got married on the steps at the top of the Lincoln Memorial, where Martin Luther King gave his I Have a Dream speech. So I created vows based off the I Have a Dream speech. So we just get super creative wherever we're going. We try to tie it in, have some fun. And then ladies, just to totally free you, we've gone the other direction, which you'll see on the website, is that we've even had a bikini wedding. So my bride,
I saw that. I mean, and your wife looked great. I got to tell you, she's brave.
I agree. So we did bikini wedding, this big veil. And so it's been from both sides of the spectrum. And so Dubai, we went all out. My bride, we got a special sari custom made in India from some friends who live in India. So we had this official Indian sari. I had my Indian jacket with the cool buttons. And in Dubai, it's such a diverse culture. Like you think Vegas and LA is diverse. Dubai is like every country, every nation. It's like the Olympics, right? You see a flag from everywhere. But the Pakistan and the Indians that were there were like looking at us like, how'd they get those clothes? Where'd they get those? What's going on? Because we did our photo shoot and all this. So I knew it was authentic. And we had another Indian gal was like, oh, that's a really nice sari. And I was like, okay, this worked out. This was fun. So it's just unleashed, Maria. You get to unleash your creativity. Because for the first wedding, right, you're so constricted because it has to be perfect. And, oh, I don't want to be too, this or too that. But then it's like, oh, this is so much fun. So I'll put this out on your show. What I'm waiting for is a wedding dress sponsor and something to unleash the creativity, because that's the perfect market, right? It's like, hey, you can continue to do this and have a lot of fun. And it doesn't have to be the $20,000 dress or the $5,000 dress, right? It could be a $500 dress. It could be a $100 dress. It could be, we did one year, Maria, where we went to a vintage clothing store in LA, which is kind of a cool thing, right?
Oh, it is. Yes.
And yeah, we got my bride a 1950s vintage dress for, I think it was $150. And lo and behold, this is why I love the fashion world and all this. Lo and behold, grandma picked out a dress for our daughter who was 8 or 9 at the time. And it was a perfect match. It was like this retro Costco kind of cool pink thing. And it was like, 60 years later, these dresses match. So we had matching cool dresses for that wedding. So you just get to unleash your creativity and just put away all the old limiting paradigms of traditional weddings.
So, which leads me to, Evan, when you said that about sponsoring on dresses. So if you ever decide to come to Las Vegas, your girl here can hook you up with a place where you can rent a dress, have it put together, and it's a beautiful vintage shop. And I have to talk to one of the chapels that I work out of, Chapel of Flowers, because we do about 5,000 weddings a year there. I don't do 5,000. We have several ministers, but we should think about Elvis marrying you. I mean, as much as I'd like to do it, how about an Elvis wedding? I mean, that's Las Vegas. So kind of put that on your radar. Ask Susan, and then we'll make it happen, because we can make this a great event. But, I just listening to you and the way you talk about you and your bride and your wife and your 2 children, right? 2?
Yes. And,
where you at. So tell me, do you work together? You said you opened a business when you took, which I did that with my husband, my late husband. It was hard working. I will say that it's not easy, but you learn to work through. You have to know when to shut work off when you get home. And I think that's the key thing, right? It's like taking your cell phone and putting it away. It's hard to do.
Oh, amen. Oh, preach. Come on, Maria.
Woohoo!
Say it.
You know what? I have to tell you, I have learned there is nothing worse than when somebody I'm talking to and all they're doing is looking at the cell phone.
Yes.
No, it's just, that's one thing during a wedding ceremony, cell phones off, put away, we unplug, we make sure people get to really enjoy the moment. When they're too busy taking pictures, you don't get to enjoy it. That's not what it's about, enjoying that, relishing that moment. Yes. But talked about it. But so what business or have you evolved? Tell me what Evan and Susan do besides all this love, right? What do you do? Let's talk about real life now, right? Let's go from happily ever after.
Okay. So first, I want to chime in on the phone part thing. So, Jim Rohn, one of the greatest quotes he ever said, and this is one you could take at so many different levels. He said, "Wherever you are, be there."
Yeah.
And when my bride, off air, I was telling Maria, my daughter and I went to Vegas just a few months ago. Because of COVID, we haven't been able to do a lot of things we wanted to do. So I said, hey, we can go to Vegas for your birthday. We can go eat at all these great places, do all this fun stuff. And I look around and all I see is people doing this. And they're not there. And my daughter and I are there. And I'm just like, what do you notice? Let's get the spray from the Bellagio fountains. Let's look at the architecture. Let's look at the creativity. Vegas is one of the most creative places in the United States because you get so much so compact, but everybody's just doing this and doing this and doing this. It's like, you're not even there. Like, you're there, but you're not there. So as far as real life goes, that spills into how we live our life. So 15 years ago, Maria, I brought my businesses, my offices home. And I said, you know what? I can do all this from home. I don't need to be structured and in the office and have salespeople and all this stuff. And so I was definitely the black sheep. People are like, you can't be productive at home. I could never work at home. And then 15 years later, COVID hits and everybody's going, why didn't I stay home in the beginning? Right? Why didn't we do this before? Why am I commuting? Why? But what I've discovered about being home and being present is, so when my workday ends, whatever time that is, that may be 2 p.m, that may be 5 p.m, whatever it is, I take my phone and I leave it in my desk and close the door, and that's done. So I don't even bring that into our life, into dinner, into whatever. And so it's really learning how to create these buffers to protect yourself, because I'm not disciplined. Oh, you're so disciplined. No, I'm the most undisciplined, because if my phone rings, I'm going to look at it. If it buzzes, I'm going to pick it up. If it does whatever it does, I'm just like you. I want the dopamine hit. Ooh, somebody texted. Ooh. So the only way to realize, create a buffer. So it has to be out of sight, out of mind. So now I'm at dinner and all I'm doing is gazing in my bride's eyes or looking at my young adults. We have dinner on average now about 6 days a week together as a family. And it's about, hey, what questions can we ask? Because if you want a better life, you got to ask better questions. So I come to dinner with specific questions and I listen to my young adults and they look at my bride and I swooning at each other and they go, oh, and they do all that, but they love it. And so that's kind of how real life really, again, the key that you brought up is you have to untether from the phone. I know we have some faith-based friends out there, so I'll share this with you. This is a quote that Jesus said that's not in the scriptures, in the ancient scriptures. He says, if you don't unplug from the world, you will never see the kingdom. And that is so, so true.
Is that the new version? I'll have to ask my priest. He's like,
yeah, that's not it. That's like in some of
that's Evans. That's but you said something, you have to buffer,
yes.
You have to just learn how to untether. And that is so true. I love that advice. But now, come on, we have a certain amount of time. So Evan, tell us what you do. You wrote a book. You've worked with Joel Osteen, who I just think him and Victoria are just fabulous.
Yes.
Oh, yes, of course. So tell our listeners, not me, but I'm curious too.
Well, I'm a self-diagnosed ADD visionary.
Mm-hmm.
So I have stuff all over the place. So we're very diverse. So I have an extreme sports company. I have a synthetic turf company. I have a full production company called Take Action Productions. So that's where the film with Zig Ziglar and Joel Osteen came into play. We put together on another side, we put together a lot for the growth-minded individuals and entrepreneurs. We put together in-person, deep dive, really intentional, really exciting masterminds where you're actually physically in a room with somebody. And we do those quarterly. And so those, again, for entrepreneurs and people that really want to grow, that really want to expand in the 5 areas of life. Because most people, when you get to business masterminds, Maria, it's like, oh, grow the business, grow the business, grow the business. And we're all about, if you want to grow the business, you got to grow yourself. Mm-hmm. You have to grow your emotional self. You have to grow your physical self. You have to grow in your marriage and your relationships. Because women, you guys understand this, everything affects everything else. Men are all in denial. They want to, live in their different compartments. And it's like, no.
It's true.
It all comes together. So we have our Men of Greatness groups. We have our Women of Greatness groups. And then our nonprofit called Session 5. We are excited in 2022 to create vision centers around the world, Maria. So picture this. Imagine Disneyland meets WeWork. So imagine a co-working space that's all about what you and I are bringing to the world. All about possibilities, all about saying, hey, how can we make this work? A growth environment for growth-minded individuals. And on site, you'll have a place where, hey, I need some help creating a business plan or a deck, and there'll be someone there. And there'll be, again, Disneyland type inspiration in the whole building. And because view affects vision, every building in the Vision Center is going to have an amazing view, whether you're over the water or over the desert, looking at the city. And we're already looking to create one in Nigeria because our nonprofit has kind of exponentially grown. So wherever we are, it's going to have an amazing view, and it's going to be a place where you can go and be immersed in this growth environment and what's possible, and actually get tangible tools to turn it into reality. So it's not just fluff and, it's wonderful. It's like, okay, how do I turn this into reality? And then create this co-working space where you can actually scale and grow your business out of that. So that's what we're doing right now.
How I love that. First of all, I talked to you in the beginning, as you heard, all things about love. And I talk about loving your way to the top. That's one of my signature talks in the workplace. And you talk about, you need to grow yourself emotionally. You're right.
Yes.
In a very way, and not just in a professional way, but emotional too, so that you can continue to grow everywhere. And it's interesting because we just wrote an article that was picked up about rebooting the relationship. And one of the things is investing in yourself. Yeah. And this is where masterminds come in as well. And I think a mastermind is a great way for you to grow in all areas. And what's great is you learn from so many people. So their long journeys, your shortcut. And
yes.
I love to. You have to send me more information about that. I'm all about growing and a masterminds because it's several people. It's not just one. I just love this. Yeah. So this sounds like you have so much on your plate. I mean, gosh, this is great. So I have to ask you as we close this, a couple of things. Anything, first of all, that you'd like to share with our listeners. But before you leave, you have to ask Susan if somewhere on the radar, Vegas might be. You might think about Las Vegas. I can either do the Valerie Knoll, we can get Elvis, or you can bring a friend. It doesn't matter. We'll have to make this work with gown and all. So I want you to put that in the back of your mind. So tell me, give us some words of advice to people, whether it's anything. And what you're talking about too today is not just on a personal level, it's a professional level. So I want everybody to understand that. So just give us some great words, that advice that you would give to somebody that's starting out, that's young, so that they can have a happy relationship, just like your children, right? It's what you're modeling.
Yes. So, wow, so much things. So I have to.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. So first of all, I just want you to know, Maria, it is not in the back of my mind, it's the front of my mind, because that is the lens, right? Where can we get married next? What can we do? So my long-term goal for you young folks, middle folks, no matter where you are in your age range, I know, Maria, you're ageless, so I'll take 5 of what you're having, please, is that if you don't have a long-term goal, right, then again, what is it to live for? So a friend of mine, Bob Proctor, he's already booked, speaking of Vegas, he's already booked his 100th year birthday party at the Bellagio. So when you've already booked the party and you've been planning it for 20 years, guess what? You're going to show up and you're going to make it, right? So for my bride and I learned from Bob, we are going to have 100 weddings by my 100th birthday, and honeymoons included. So that's the health goal right there too. So yes, super excited about that. So we have done Vegas. We did the Excalibur. We did the King and Queen wedding, but I am definitely open, because we got to get to 100, to doing a Vegas 2.0 in style with you, Maria, and really maxing it out. Maybe we could do the top of the stratosphere. We got to do something creative.
Oh, we have that. We have that, or the link. We call it the high roller. There's a lot of different places.
Okay. So
maybe a helicopter. What about a helicopter?
Ooh, we could do helicopter and then parachute out. We could do something.
Well,
like that.
I don't know about the parachuting. Maybe we can do that. I do helicopter weddings. Okay. Go ahead.
Now we're talking. Okay, so I'm with you. Totally talking. So as far as, again, advice and key, it really comes down to two quick things, right? In order for things to get better, whether our finances, our relationship, hey, I got to get rid of this emotional baggage that I've been denying for so long. In order for things to get better, we have to get better. In order for things to grow, like our bank account, like our sex life, like our relationships, we have to grow. And so it's about taking the responsibility and saying, gosh, it's not about what does my mate need to work on? What does he or she need to change? Because what other people do has no reflection on you becoming the best you. So it's about making that choice and saying, you know what? I'm just going to focus on me. How about I just work on me? And what I've had to do is, like, there's a reason racehorses have the blinders on, right? Because it's so easy to compare, right? You pick up your phone, you look at Instagram, you instantly get compare-itis. Oh, look at them. Oh, look at Maria. She's doing this. Oh, right? So comparison is the thief of all joy. So put the blinders on and say, hey, what do I need to focus on? What do I need to work on? And then from a marriage relationship perspective, there's a key thing to understand. How many times have you heard this, Maria? Oh, gosh, I don't know what happened, but we just kind of drifted apart, right? Right? That's like, and here's the key, newsflash, guess what? There's a drift. There is a current. When you get married, there is a current that will pull you apart day by day by day. It's a natural current pulling you apart. It doesn't naturally push you together. It pulls you apart. So you have to be intentional about saying, hey, how do we fight this drift by paddling together? Keeping our boats aligned. Anyone that's ever been on a canoe, or if you've ever been on one of those paddle boards, stand-up paddle boards, ever been on a lazy river, right? Those inner tubes, you start off together. Oh, this is going to be so much fun. You turn your head and where'd they go, right? That's a marriage relationship. So it's about being intentional to say, how do we paddle together so we can stay together? Because it's not a bicycle built for two when you get married. It's not a, hey, jump on my kayak, we'll be together. No, you're two separate people. So you have to realize there is a drift, and it's probably the same in Vegas. In Los Angeles, it's the tune of 75% divorce rate. So it's understanding that's a strong current. So how do we fight this current so we can stay together throughout the journey? Not, hey, we made it, the kids are gone, who are you, right? That's not, you don't want that. Or, hey, I've got too many kids, it's just too much stress, well, I got to bail, right? How do we stay together? And so it's just those daily decisions, going back to what I said in the beginning, Maria, and stuff that you were talking about being intentional and saying, gosh, happily ever after is what I create every day.
I love that, Evan. I mean, really, what you said, I don't think I could have said it any better, because doing and performing wedding ceremonies, I say this to couples, being a widow and, having lost my husband, although we were given borrowed time. He had a heart transplant in 1997. So that brought me to a point where, yes, becoming present and what you said, and don't compare, because I use that same quote. Comparison is the thief of joy. Oh my gosh, it's so true. And what you brought today was just amazing. And I can't wait to get this released. So when everybody gets to listen to this, and hopefully I will have you and Susan come to Vegas, and hopefully Bob Proctor can come.
Oh, yeah.
I have not yet to meet him. I'm putting it out there. I'd like to meet him as well.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So, but that's putting it out there. I want to thank you so, so much for coming on to my show. You are going to be the first release, I believe, for New Year's, because we want to get this out. We want to have couples, people that are in relationships, to continue to enjoy and love each other, but not just people in relationships. If you're not in a relationship, have the best relationship with yourself.
Yes.
And I think that's the key thing. Evan, thank you so, so much. Everybody, have a great day. And remember, as I always say, spread love. Bye, everybody.